Yes, that's right, people. You see a Molly Burke video in front of you, but this time I'm not going to sit here and rip the whole thing apart. Who knows? I may do that on a Twitch stream, but we'll save that for later. I want to use the following 20 to 30 seconds of this video as kind of a jumping off point and just kind of a retrospective, if you will. So I thought I would, give you a quick overview of this. We'll play this real quick, and then I will tell you what I'm thinking.
So, today I could not be more excited for this episode because this is something I've quite literally wanted to do from the time I was a wee child. I was the little sister who was very much not cool and desperately wanted to be like my older brother who was very much cool. And so anything he did, I inherently wanted to do but often could not because this was the 90s, the early 2000s. Accessibility was not what it is today. And so one of those things was gaming. I could never game because even though I had good vision as a child, I have been legally blind from birth. So I couldn't see enough on the screen to be able to game.
I want to say to you, Molly, that I'm sorry your family in its in its media capacity. First of all, like your dad was part of a media company and then went on to help start Accessible Media Incorporated and was vice president of that. I'm sorry that your family didn't have the skills to think outside the box for you. And I'm starting to realize the more I hear things like this from people who've been blind for a very long time or legally blind for a very long time, I'm starting to realize that as fucked up and as dysfunctional as my family is, that as a blind person, I got so lucky. I got so lucky on so many ways because my family were and are very much along the lines of, yeah, you're blind, but that doesn't mean you are incapable of doing life. Here, let's figure out how to adapt things for you. And one of those things was gaming. And I'm 5 years older than Molly. I grew up in the early 90s. I was introduced to UMK3 and Killer Instinct and Bushido Blade, all because of the sound cues. It didn't matter how dark the screen was or any of that, because it was all sound based. And had your family, Molly, even taken half a second to think about that, you probably could have gamed with your brother. And you probably could have gotten into gaming much sooner. A lot of us blind people are very much attracted to fighting games because of the sound. Even in the early 90s, I like to say that was the genre that was accidentally made for blind people, because even back then it was very sound heavy. And my family, my dad and my uncles, they didn't take it easy on me because I was blind. My dad and I remember we would go around for hours and hours on Bushido Blade, and he would kick my ass up and down the map until I learned to stop spamming one button. And that's why I can play the way I can, because my family took the time to include me in the things they enjoyed. they didn't say, oh, you're blind, therefore you just sit over there in the corner. It was, how can we figure out how to include you in as many things as we can? So I played video games with my family. I went fishing with my family. I played cards with my family because they got me Braille cards when I was, 6 or 7. We adapted ways to play Trivial Pursuit. We would play in teams so that when it came time for me to read the question card, my partner would read the question card. It was just about thinking. And the more I interact with not just your videos, Molly, but with a lot of blind people, I realized that as much as, there was a lot of dysfunction, my family busted their ass to really include me and teach me the skill of adaptation. And I'm I'm becoming more and more grateful as I find more and more blind people who had to struggle to learn that skill because their family was just like, oh, I don't know what to do. Or like they would pick and choose the adaptation skill to help, Or, oh, gaming isn't necessarily going to be a skill you need, so we're not going to focus on that. Whereas, it's everything. It's how do we teach you how to adapt for social situations? How do we teach you how to adapt for mobility situations? How do we teach you to adapt for independent living skills situations? All of that. You can't just pick and choose. And I'm seeing so many blind people whose families either didn't try to teach that skill at all, or they just picked the specific adaptations, focused on those, and didn't teach the broad overall skill of generalized adaptation and improvisation and problem solving. And I really just, I'm feeling incredibly grateful for that right now. That my family took the time to instill that skill in me.